Hey everyone, ready to go deep on something. Today it's one of the biggest mysteries there is, consciousness.
Yeah, that feeling of being you, right? Experiencing the world, thinking about thinking. We're tackling that.
And it's slippery, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you even put words to what it feels like to be someone?
It's like-
Imagine trying to explain color to someone who's been blind since birth. Tricky.
Exactly. So we've got help. Robert L. Kuhn's work, especially his paper, A Landscape of Consciousness.
The guy spent decades on this. Interviewing experts, he's even got that Closer to Truth TV series.
Right. The paper's a monster, though. So many theories, like trying to categorize them is already messy.
And Kuhn admits that. Consciousness is probably way more complicated than any one explanation.
Totally. So we're your guides through this jungle, basically, giving you a taste of the main ways people try to explain consciousness.
From the super physical, like it's all your brain.
To the, let's say, more out there ideas.
Exactly. We'll even touch on how these theories deal with big stuff, like can AI really be conscious?
Ooh, good one. Or what about life after death? Does any of this even allow for that?
Think of it like a sampler platter of mind-blowing ideas, not the whole buffet, just enough to be interesting.
I like that. Brain food. So Kuhn uses this landscape idea. Imagine a line. On one side, it's all about the physical, like your brain doing stuff.
And on the other end, it's like there's got to be more than just neurons firing, you know?
Exactly. So physical end, we've got physicalism. Consciousness is just brain activity, like a super duper computer program.
And the opposite is non-materialism. Can't just be physical stuff. Maybe a soul, maybe universal consciousness. Who knows?
And to be clear, not every theory is perfectly in one box. There's overlap. Right?
Absolutely. It's more like, what's the main idea driving each theory? Like, what's the main ingredient in this dish?
Okay, so let's taste some of these theories. Rather than going in order, let's pick a few that are really different.
Sounds fun.
Let's start physical-ish. Daniel Dennett's multiple drafts model always makes me think.
Oh, it's a good one. Tends like, what if there's not one you in your head watching your experiences like a movie?
Wait, what?
Yeah. He says it's more like different parts of your brain are making their own drafts of what's going on, and whichever one's strongest at that moment, that's what you become conscious of.
So not a little me watching a screen in my head.
Nope. Way more fragmented, constantly changing. Like, imagine a bunch of people working on one report, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
Each person writes their draft, emphasizing what they think's important. Final product. It's this mashup, not any one person's work.
Ah, that's a good way to think about it. So our experience is kind of like that mashed up report, always changing.
Exactly. And then that makes you think, even memory isn't this perfect recording anymore. It's like
Yeah.
constantly being revised based on what's happening now. Wild.
Whoa. Okay, brain's already bending a bit. Ready for a total shift to the other side of the landscape?
Hit me with it. Let's get weird.
All right, idealism it is. This one always messes with me. Like, what if the whole universe is actually consciousness? And our minds are just tiny pieces of this giant cosmic mind.
It's a tough one to picture, for sure. Maybe think of it like, okay, imagine a huge ocean, right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So each wave, it's got its own shape. It moves differently, but it's all still water, part of that same ocean.
Okay.
So idealism, it's like our minds are the waves, all unique, but they're part of this underlying ocean of pure consciousness.
I see the analogy, but then what about this? Like the actual world, the physical stuff, is that an illusion?
That's where idealism gets really complex. Different versions answer that in different ways.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, some say the physical world, it's like a projection from this universal consciousness.
Yeah.
Others say, no, it exists, but it's not as fundamental as consciousness itself.
Whoa, hold on. So, like, our minds create the world. That's some Matrix stuff.
Kind of, yeah. It's a shift. Point is, idealism makes you rethink reality altogether.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, what if consciousness isn't something that just happens inside the universe? What if it's what the universe is made of?
Okay, brain's officially fried. Can we switch gears before it melts down completely?
Sure, sure. From one extreme to another, huh?
Let's find some middle ground. How about integrated information theory? IIT, for the cool kids.
Ah, IIT. This one always gets people riled up. Basic idea, consciousness comes from how interconnected the information in a system is.
Hold on, you're saying you can measure how conscious something is with, like, math, how?
It's about how much information a system can integrate, process, all at once.
Yeah.
Your brain, billions of neurons, all linked up, super complex.
Right, right. Keeps all those tabs open in my mind.
IIT says that's what creates the feeling of experience. And they've got equations for it.
So, like, you could compare a human brain, a dog brain, and a rock, and get numbers for how conscious they are.
Yeah, that's the idea. Whether they've actually done it, that's debated like crazy. There was even this thing recently, a bunch of scientists called IIT pseudoscience publicly.
Yeah, did they really?
Full-on academic brawl. So yeah, lots of debate still. Welcome to consciousness research.
Always entertaining. Speaking of big questions these theories bring up, right? Like AI, if we ever made a really complex AI, could it actually be conscious like us?
Huge question. And then there's the afterlife thing. Do any of these theories even allow for that?
Right. Big if.
These are old questions, and honestly, no easy answers. But the source does talk about how these different theories approach them. Let's dig in a little.
Absolutely. Let's start with AI. Where do these theories generally fall on whether a machine could truly be conscious?
Well, materialism, since it's all about the physical brain, tends to be the most open to it. If consciousness is just information processing, super complex, sure, maybe we could copy that in a machine, right?
Right. It's one thing to process info. It's another to actually feel something.
Yeah. Huge difference. And that's where non-materialism gets trickier. They're saying there's something special about consciousness. You can't just build it with wires and chips, you know?
Like, even if the AI is writing poetry that makes us cry, it doesn't mean it feels anything.
Exactly. Could be super good at faking it, but that inner experience, that what it's like to be. Non-materialism says that's not so easy to explain if it's just a machine.
Yeah. Okay, gotta ask the big one, though. Afterlife. When we die, that's it. Lights out for consciousness. Any of these theories offer hope for something more.
Ah, the million-dollar question, right? Again, depends which path you're on. Materialism, with the brain being so central, tends to say, yeah, brain dies, consciousness goes too.
So, no heaven, no becoming one with the universe, nothing.
Well, hold on. Even within materialism, there are different takes. Some say, hey, what if we could copy all the info in your brain, like perfectly, upload it to a computer or something?
Oh, man, like that Black Mirror episode where they make digital copies of people? Creek red.
Getting into sci-fi territory there. But that's the idea.
Wild. Okay, so what about non-materialism then? What happens to consciousness without a body to hold it?
Well, they're more open to it, obviously. If consciousness isn't dependent on the physical, then no reason, it just disappears when we do, right?
So it's like our consciousness is riding in the car of our body, and when the car breaks down...
The passenger's fine, walks on out.
Exactly.
Some even say all those individual consciousness, they might end up merging into one big universal consciousness.
Yeah.
Remember the ocean? Maybe our waves just go back to being part of that vastness.
Whoa. So we've been focusing on the brain this whole time, but you mentioned earlier the body might be important too. Explain that, because usually we think of mind and body as separate.
It's a cool thought. Kuhn mentions it, but a lot of theories, they're all about what's going on inside the skull.
Yeah.
Right. But what if our bodies, the fact that we sense, move, interact with the world, what if that shapes consciousness way more than we realize?
So not just the computer, but how it's actually used in the real world changes things.
Exactly. Think about trying to understand a bat, right? Just by looking in its brain, you could see all the neurons, but you'd miss the whole echolocation part. That changes their entire reality. We can't even grasp it.
So to really get consciousness, we have to think about the whole experience, body and all, not just the brain in a jar.
Totally. The body's not just along for the ride. It's part of what makes the ride what it is, even if we don't notice it consciously.
Man, that is mind-blowing. Honestly, we're so busy looking for where consciousness lives in the brain, we miss the bigger picture.
Right. It's the whole system. Body, mind, environment. It's all connected.
But it makes you think, if we did make conscious AI, would it need a body too? To really have a self like we do?
Now, that is a question for the ages. And honestly, I think that's a great place for us to leave this. Something for everyone listening to ponder.
Right. Lots to ponder after this one. If this got your brain gears turning even just a little bit, then we've done our job. Because with consciousness, the exploring is half the fun. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll have it all figured out. But until then, keep those minds open and curious, everyone.